When I was in grade 6, I think, we had to give a speech as a notable Canadian, and I chose was Elsie McGill. I had a nice blazer and I think 2 canes to use. While she didn't inspire me to go into engineering or science, having figures like that in Canadian history probably helped inspire me to study Canadian history, because you can see figures that you can identify with, and you get excited by stories like these. Hello, my name is Rebecca Sykes, and I am an archivist in the Business and Industry portfolio. I work in private acquisitions at Library and Archives Canada. I'm also filling in for my colleague Kelsey Beauvais, who normally occupies the Women in STEM portfolio. I want to give her credit for working on the faun, because she did a lot of work to set this up and to get the faun nominated for CC UNESCO. The faun of Elizabeth Gregory McGill has been accepted onto the Canada Memory of the World Register, and that's in recognition of her contributions to science and to advancing women's rights. Women often underestimate the value of their contributions to science and their records, and so unfortunately that doesn't get preserved and documented. So in saving her records, which document not just her scientific and engineering contributions, but also her contributions to women's rights and advancing the status of women, she really is setting an example for other women to follow. So yeah, the faun consists of a lot of her notes from when she was involved in the Royal Commission. That's kind of what prompted her to reach out to the archives, because she wanted to document that work. She really believed in documenting women's stories and making sure that they were accessible to inspire others and for others to study. We also have some of her university notes from when she was studying engineering. We also have a good amount of photos that show her throughout her life. So Elizabeth McGill was born in 1905 in Vancouver, British Columbia, to a woman who was a suffragette, and that really inspired her because her mother was appointed as one of the first women judges in Canada when she was a teenager. And when Elsie McGill decided to go to school, she decided to pursue engineering because she was interested in fixing things herself. A lot of her drawings from her career as an engineer we just don't have because they were proprietary and they were confidential. But we can get an idea of what her work was like from her student work that she preserved. So she started studying actually at University of British Columbia, and she started engineering there, and was actually asked to leave because they decided to reduce their student body by 1 person, and they decided not to have a woman in the engineering department. So she then transferred to Toronto, and so she became the first woman to graduate with a degree in electrical engineering from the University of Toronto. And she also became interested in aircrafts, and she decided to study aerospace engineering at the University of Michigan, and we believe she's the first woman in the world to obtain a master's in aeronautical engineering in 1929. And after a few years, she was hired as the chief aeronautical engineer at Canadian Car and Foundry Company in what's now Thunder Bay, Ontario. And her role there would become really important during the wartime. So her first project was actually to design a trainer aircraft that would be used to train recruits in World War II on how to fly. So it had to have aerobatic capabilities. So this is the Maple Leaf Trainer 2. That Elsie designed. That's Elsie McGill in front. She became kind of a folk hero during World War II. Queen of the Hurricanes, they dubbed her. News media took interest in this woman engineer who was leading a very important project, mass producing aircrafts for the Commonwealth defenses. This is the comic that features her and her work during World War II mass-producing Hawker Hurricanes. So here we have a series of letters with the Institute for Aeronautical Sciences. She applied for membership in 1936, but they denied her request on the basis that she was a woman. They offer her their excuses, which are that, they meet at a special dining room that only allows men to participate. And she really kind of takes them to task and breaks down their logic and is like, well, that doesn't make sense. We already have co-ed societies that exist around the world. We get a reply from him basically saying, your logic is flawless and I will put it forward to the association again. But unfortunately, they did not accept it. So in this box and in, I think, the next couple of boxes are all her notes from the Royal Commission. Before the war ended, she left in 1943 and she began her own consulting business. And so that way she could kind of choose what projects interested her and what she wanted to work on and what would challenge her. She became a member of the Business and Professional Women's Club, and eventually she became the president of the Canadian Federation of these clubs. And in that group, she really lobbied for advancing women's status in Canada. She worked on a number of issues such as penal reform, changes to taxation, and eventually that brought her to the attention of the Prime Minister. She had briefed 2 prime ministers on the resolutions of the clubs, and she was named as a commissioner on the Royal Commission on the Status of Women. And this file here is a copy of the letter appointing her to the commission, signed by Lester B. Pearson. She looks at the number of women serving on the Senate and the rate at which they're growing, and she's saying, at this rate, we'll have only 30 women out of 100 in the Senate by the year 2030. And she thought we should champion getting women on the Senate right away so that we have proportional representation. So this file is some of her speeches that she gave when she was finished the Royal Commission on the Status of Women, because, as I say, she really believed in not just delivering the report, but in making the recommendations come to fruition. So in here, she says, "It is only habit, custom, and complacency that keep us chained to outworn ideas and to outmoded institutions. Once we recognize the desirability of change, we can readily find the way to accomplish it. The need for change provides our federation and our clubs with tremendous opportunities for service in Canada." Yeah, she kind of followed her mother's example in that they both believed you needed to have women in positions of authority, kind of to inspire younger girls. If you can see it, you can be it.